Good measure, no? Oui.
Give me one with a silly accent.
Why? So originally, I wanted to make a video about what makes good horror. But while doing some research, I soon learned that that's completely subjective. So I figured that making a video about that would be about as pointless as making a video about what scares me personally. Still, that's exactly what I did. Now at first I tried to do some generic bullshit, like trying to explain how relatable horror is scary, and how feeling like you have a lack of control over the situation can be scary. But that ground has already been trampled to shit by so many other people that I didn't really feel like I could add anything to that at all. So I figured that a good way to find out what scares me would be to look at some of the games I find scary, and then try to find out what exactly I find so scary about them. What I find scary. Now, the first thing I thought of were the sewers in Silent Hill 3. What made these so scary for me to traverse through were the suggestive noises. The game constantly makes these random atmospheric noises and weird reverberated screeches, even though you are clearly the only one walking around these empty halls. To me, it felt like the game was hinting that there could be something in the water, even though there isn't. But as I walked the narrow pathways on the side, I was scared something would jump out at me, or that if I were to jump into the water, something would drag me under. And that's when it dawned to me. It was me freaking myself out rather than the game. The constant anticipation of a possible jump scare was literally driving me crazy. And sure, the game was helping me drive that idea into my head, but all the scary things that I thought were there were all made up by me, and therefore 100% tailored to what I find scary. The same thing happened to me as a kid when I first played through Resident Evil 4. The forest at the beginning of this game was terrifying to me back then. Like, I was completely freaking myself out, constantly thinking that Farmer Carlitos would jump out at me out of nowhere and bestow upon me the benefits of having a wider anus. And then he did. Well, sort of. And once again, I think it was mostly the sounds that the game made that led me to think there was something scarier going on than there actually was. Anyway, nowadays Resident Evil 4 doesn't scare me at all. I mean, I still think it's a great game, but most of the villagers are really just cannon fodder. But back then, I was literally trembling with fear. So really, the anticipation of a possible jump scare and the things that I think during that moment is apparently what I find most scary. Which brings me to Slender. As much as I hate to admit it, I actually found Slender to be very scary the first time around. Now, don't get me wrong, the game is undoubtedly a piece of shit, with its standard Unity assets and all. But the thing is, when I first saw this game, it was before it got as immensely popular as it eventually did. So I didn't really know what to expect from it. And if there's one thing that this game does right, it's build-up. And not knowing quite what it was building up to, it had me rigid with fear. And come on, obviously nothing is scarier than being chased around a forest by a white guy. All joking aside though, if you didn't find Slender scary, it's probably because you knew what was coming, or because of the internet ruining it for you. I mean, I'm sure most of you saw at least one video of some twat screaming his fucking dick off over this game. Anyway, when I first found out how shallow the game's jump scares actually were, it stopped being scary rather quickly. Which kinda bummed me out, to be honest. I mean, by now it had built up so much fear, only to have it wasted with such a shitty payoff. It's something I tend to see in a lot of other popular horror games lately as well. Some of these games have some pretty good tension build-up too, but then the jump scares are just kinda bad. Well, I guess that's all subjective, but it still made me wonder if there actually is a game out there that actually does have effective jump scares. And there was only one game I could think of. That game is Cry of Fear. A game that I could best describe as Silent Hill without all the subtlety and calming bits. Basically, it's gross, disturbing, vile, and a full-on mindfuck. Now what this game does is that it has jump scares without any kind of warning. And more importantly, these jump scares also affect you in-game rather than just killing you off instantly. You see, most of the game's jump scares go paired with a number of enemies showing up. This not only makes them effectively scary, but it also puts you in a state of panic, by actually putting you in direct danger. Now I will admit that as the game goes on, the jump scares kinda lose their strength. After a while, you kinda start to expect that when you walk into an empty room, something will probably break down the wall and scream at you. But I feel that the implications of these jump scares still make them infinitely more effective than anything a game like Slander has to offer. And once again, the sounds in this game have a lot to do with that as well. To me, something going just isn't all that scary. But something going is. Of course, some things will be scarier to me than they would be to someone else, but the simple pop scares with a bit of white noise and a sudden screech just don't do it for me. But still, I guess jump scares scare me more than I initially thought they would. I mean, as short and egotistical as this video may have been, I still feel like I've learned a little bit more about myself. Before I started working on this, and someone would have asked me what I found scary, I don't think jump scares would have been my answer. So, looking at it now, I guess I'm more of a pussy than I initially thought I was. Still, I think it has more to do with the psychological implications of the jump scares in question, or rather the build-up to one, than the actual scare itself. Anyway, I kinda feel like one of those stupid YouTubers when I say this, but I do really want to know what scares you. So, we can compare scares. So yeah, leave a comment, I guess. And like, subscribe, donate. Oh God, I'm sorry.